Hey guys, Gore here. With the full release of Squad last week, we've seen a massive influx of new players checking out the game, so today I'm bringing you my complete beginner's guide to Squad. Squad has a bit of a learning curve, so I'm going to do my best to explain the ins and outs of the game and give you the information you need to jump into your first round with confidence. This beginner's guide will be followed up by an intermediate and a veteran gameplay guide to give you more in-depth tactics and knowledge to help you succeed in Squad. If you have any questions about the game or want to catch some Squad gameplay live, check out my live streams over at twitch.tv/gorlami14. Now let's get into it. Alright, so you picked up Squad on sale after seeing it on the front page of Steam, or maybe you saw Shroud streaming it and it looked like a blast. But now that you've loaded into the game, you don't actually have a clue what to do. In most games, you can jump straight into multiplayer and catch on pretty quick, but Squad is a completely different egg to crack. Fortunately, there are tools at your disposal to help show you the ropes and get you geared up and ready for your first game. As cliche as it is to say, the first thing you're going to want to do when you load up the game is to play the Infantry tutorial. While some parts of the tutorial may seem redundant, there's a ton of great information to be learned. The tutorial doesn't take long to finish depending on how much time you spend at each of the different stations. You'll start off with the player movement portion. Much of this is nothing new if you've played FPSs before. One thing to take note of is the buddy mantle system, where you can jump on a friendly to mantle higher walls. In-game, this is a great tool to breach compounds from areas that the enemy does not expect you from. The next big area has stations for several large aspects to the game to include communication, reading a map, vehicle weak points, faction identification, and weapons testing. We'll touch on a few of these in more depth later in the video, but for now, I'll recommend spending a few minutes at each station to get a grasp on the larger mechanics in Squad. Now that you've completed the tutorial, you're ready to get in your first game, right? Not so fast. Hop on into Jensen's range. While this portion can be skipped over, it will give you invaluable information and help you get settled into the game. Once you're in, select whichever faction duel tickles your fancy and take a look at the kit selection menu. In here, you can click through the different kits and see which classes get what for their loadout. Now before your first game, let's get those pesky settings all figured out so we don't have to do it in a live match. You can set your audio and visual settings to your own preference. I'll include all my settings so you can pause the video if you want and copy any of it. When it comes to keybinds, there's a few major changes that I'll touch on. The first being remapping your Squad and local chat to something more accessible. I personally use the two thumb buttons located on my mouse. You'll be using comms a lot, so make sure you can get to them easily. Next, you should change your map key to something closer to your WASD keys. I have mine on my V key. In Squad, you can gather much of the information you need just by checking your map. Next, when you use your caps lock key to open the command menu, there's a cogwheel in the top right. Click on this and copy the options I have enabled. This will help give you more useful information on your map. Speaking of maps, let's take a look at ours. I won't cover every aspect of the map, I'll just touch on the most important ones and the parts I often get asked about. First off, if you enabled the FOB Radii option that I talked about previously by going in the cog icon in the command menu, you'll now see that two circles are around every FOB radio. These being a blue inner circle and an outer gray circle. The inner blue circle has a radius of 150 meters, and it is the area where supplies can be loaded or unloaded and where tech structures, fortifications, and weapon emplacements can be placed. The outer gray circle has a radius of 300 meters. No other FOB radio may be placed inside of this gray circle, so the closest you can have FOBs from one another is 300 meters. One of the main uses of the map is marking enemy infantry, vehicles, and spawn locations. Marking enemies on the map can win or lose a game because in Squad, information is always an advantage. When starting out, you're going to see a lot of red marks all over the map that you probably don't understand. Things like helmet marks indicating infantry is mostly self-explanatory, but some are a little more peculiar to understand when you're new. If you come across something on the map that you don't understand the meaning of, go up to the top right corner where there's a helmet with a question mark next to it. This is your icon legend. Cross-reference this with what mark you didn't understand and eventually you will know what each represents. Something I'd like to touch on briefly is callouts in game. There are several things new players and even some experienced players get very wrong when making callouts. Firstly, compass number callouts are for local comms and local comms only. If you say enemy infantry 235 of me over squad comms, every member, whether they're right next to you or hundreds of meters away, is going to look at 235. For squad comms, try to use cardinal directions instead, so your squad has a general idea of where to look and they can start scanning from there. This brings me to my next point. Nobody knows who me is. When you make a call out, say your name so there's no question of who's making the call out, and the fire team leads or squad leader can mark enemies or communicate orders as needed. Now for the most meme-worthy call out mistake that new players make, vehicle callouts. Everyone who's played Squad has heard a new player call an MTLB a tank or just classify everything as a BTR. Identifying vehicles when you first start out is extremely difficult, and it can be frustrating to the rest of your team when they're called out incorrectly. To alleviate some of this confusion when calling out a vehicle, give your squad 2 main pieces of information. Say whether the vehicle is tracked or wheeled, and if it has a gun. This may sound silly, but if I'm playing against the Russians and one member of my squad says wheeled vehicle that has a gun, I know it's not a Logi, BMP, or a tank, and I can use the Team Assets guide in the top right corner of the command menu to see that it could be either a 30mm BTR or a scout car. As a new player, pay attention to what is being called out and what it looks like, and in no time, you'll have every vehicle memorized. Well, I think you're ready to hop into your first game of squad, but what server should you pick? There are a couple key indicators in the name of the servers that you should be looking for before joining. If the server states that it's a noob friendly or new player friendly or any iteration along those lines, then you're good to go. These servers will have individuals willing to help, and the player base will be accepting and helpful to new players. Steer clear of servers that have comp or competitive in their names. These servers are frequented by experienced players who want to play with other experienced players and are less likely to cater to new ones. Typically in squad, the best servers have longer queues to join. It's up to you how long you're willing to wait to join a match. If you do enjoy a server and want to frequent it without waiting in the queue every time, many servers offer whitelisting for just a few dollars a month. This will allow you to skip the line and get into the game quicker. You're in a game now and ready to take on the world, but what squad should you join? Some squads will be named new player friendly or something along the lines. These are your bread and butter if you can get into them. Squads have a maximum player limit of 9, so don't wait around to see every squad fill up. At the start of a new game, joining any of the first few squads made is a good call. These are usually led by individuals with a good amount of experience and are more likely to help out a newbie. If you come into a server mid-round and you have several options to choose from, a good gauge is to click on the squad and see how close or dispersed they are over the map. If the squad is sticking together, then they probably have good leadership and good communication. At the start of every new round, take a minute looking at the team selection screen to get a better idea of what your teammates and enemies' uniforms are going to look like. This will not only help you not accidentally pop a friendly in the face when they come around a corner, but when you're scanning hillsides or buildings, you know what color of uniform your enemies will be wearing. When you're looking at the spawn screen, you'll see a few options to choose from. There's main base, which is where you spawn at the beginning of the game. There's habs, which are team-wide spawns, and then there's rally points, which only squad leaders can drop, and they're a spawn point for your squad and your squad only. You can double-click on the spawn location on the map to spawn there instead of using the spawn point list to the left of the map. Always better safe than sorry to ask your squad leader where they want you spawning so you don't end up halfway across the map from your squad or the current objective. When you first start out in squad, you see all the cool kits like Grenadier and Lat and ooh, that shiny marksman rifle. Nope, not yet. Grab that Rifleman Kit with the high-powered optic and get your bearings on the game. The Rifleman Kit is the simplest kit in game while also being incredibly useful to your team. Within your kit, you get a rifle with a magnified optic, which will be incredibly useful as you try to spot and shoot enemies. You also get a knife, a frag grenade, 2 smokes, 2 bandages, and a shovel, and the almighty ammo bag. This ammo bag has 100 ammo points when full, and any kit can use it to resupply themselves. This kit will allow your squad leader to get a new rally, your AT kits can replenish their rockets, or your medic can get some much needed bandages. The Rifleman Kit may seem boring to new players compared to other kits, but when used correctly, you can swing games back in your favor. Use this time as a rifleman to get used to the flow of the game, how different game modes are played, and become an effective weapon against your enemies. In the beginning of your squad career, it's not all too important knowing how to play every single game mode. You'll pick up the gist of things the more you play. When you're first starting out, your objective is to stick with your squad and listen to your squad leader. Close proximity to your squad will allow you to have better odds of survival and will increase your chances of winning a fight against an element of the enemy team. It will also allow you to be physically close to more experienced players, and you can take note of their movement and tactics. In lulls in the fighting, you can also be asking questions to your squad leader or members of the squad of how certain things should be done or what you can do better. Granted, some players may not help you, but the vast majority of the squad community is happy to take a new player under their wing for a round or give them some helpful advice. Moving on to the gameplay side of things, there are a few main points I'm going to cover to get you started off on the right foot and hopefully get you taking out some enemies. The first thing we're going to cover is stamina. Stamina is represented by the little bar at the bottom of your screen. Stamina allows you to run faster and steady your aim. Setting your aim when engaging targets in squad is an absolute must, thus having stamina when you're in a fight is essential. To steady your aim, your stamina bar needs to be white in color, which is about 60% or more full. You can only steady your aim for around 9 seconds, so wait until you're ready to fire to steady it. I always tell new players to regen their full stamina bar before entering an area where enemies likely are. There are a few ways of going about this. Standing still will regen a full stamina bar in 12 seconds, crouching will regen in 9 seconds, and going prone will regen in around 8 seconds. The action of laying down and standing back up takes more than 1 second, so for the most efficiency, I recommend crouching to regen your stamina. For these regen times, you must be still and not moving about. Having stamina when going into a fight will also allow you to move to cover quicker or fall back quicker if need be. If and when you are incapacitated and revived, you will not have any stamina and you will not start regenerating stamina until you receive some heals from a medic's medbag. In squad, there are a limited number of tickets your team has, and if you run out first, you lose. Everything in the game has a ticket value. Infantry are worth 1 ticket, logistics vehicles are worth 5, APCs, IFVs, and radios are worth 10, and main battle tanks are worth 15. There's an icon in the top right of your command menu that shows you what each thing in-game is worth. Piggybacking off the ticket subject, I need to talk to you about the give up button. Currently in squad, when you get shot and quote-unquote die, you are only incapacitated and can be revived by any friendly player with a bandage. There are some deaths that will leave you with a shorter bleed out timer, like dying to an IED blast or being shot in the head with 50 cal. It may be boring staring at the death screen waiting for someone to revive you, but by not giving up, you don't lose a ticket for your team, and oftentimes once revived, you'll be right back into the action versus if you gave up and came back off a spawn point. There is some discretion on when to give up and when not to. There will be times when your squad leader wants to push from a new area or spawn at main to grab a Logi, and they'll want you to give up, so just be listening to your squad leader for instructions. Closing out the video, there are a few tips that I'll leave you with. When rearming off a vehicle, ammo crate, or ammo bag, you can individually click the things you want to rearm and then press the center circle to take what you selected, or you can just click the center, and if there is enough supplies, you will rearm everything. When in a vehicle, you can use your F keys to switch seats, so if you're in the driver's seat and your SL wants to drive, you can hit one of the F keys. I'll have a plethora of other guides linked in the description below that touch on more in-depth gameplay strategies and aspects of squad. At the end of the day, squad is just a game. The moments you'll have in this game are like none other. Whether that be artillery dropping on you for the first time or listening to 50 people sing Take Me Home Country Roads during staging, this game provides a one-of-a-kind experience. I hope this guide helps you get your bearings in game and provides you with some tips that you'll one day pass on to newbies you come across in game. Good luck out there on the battlefield, and until next time, I'm out.